Xiang's punch sent Xiao Chou flying. Xiao Chou was indeed from the Herculean clan. After Xiao Chou had experienced such an attack, he still was able to open his eyes and ruthlessly stare at Xiang. Meanwhile, Xiao Chou was getting up. He heard Long Xue's tender snort before 4 white dragon claws suddenly emerged from the ground, tightly clutching Xiao Chou's arms and feet, forcing him to lay on the ground. In the sky, the tyrannical spirit Qi began to surge, accompanied with a fierce gale of wind, and the occasional rumbling of the lighting. It gave off the impression as if a storm was approaching. Some people only thought it was a coincidence. They didn't believe Xiang would have the rain and the wind at his beck and call. However, the Deans sensed the power gathering up in the sky. Even in their dreams, they had never thought of the existence of such fearsome martial technique, which could gather the heaven and earth spirit Qi to attack. Xiao Ziliang felt far from good. At this time he noticed Xiao Chou's arms and feet tightly clasped by 4 white claws from the ground. Not good. Xiao Ziliang just thought of stopping the fight. He noticed a glaring white light flashing out from the tar-black sky densely covered in dark clouds, accompanied by a deafening roar. It was as if the world has been shrouded by a dragon's roar. It felt as if a dragon was tearing the sky and was going to appear in the mortal world. The Deans were all deeply shaken by this kind of momentum. Heavenly Dragon Seal. Furious Dragon's Retribution. In Xiang's mind resounded Long Xue's tender shout, before a huge white dragon suddenly tore open the dark clouds. The dragon had its head pointed down, as it charged downwards. The dragon only appeared for an instant, before the dragon's head fiercely ran into the ground, directly colliding with Xiao Chou's young figure. Quickly jump! Gu Dongchen thunderously roared. After the white dragon fell from the sky, like a lightning strike, straight down bombarding upon Xiao Chou's body, then merged into the ground. Suddenly, many fissures appeared on that huge square in the blink of an eye. Those huge yet thick bricks were all suddenly smashed into pieces. Now the square was like a small lake tossing fiercely up and down. Waves upon waves of dust and stones began to appear. The whole square was submerged in dust. Many people even jumped into the air to avoid the fierce turmoil. When they landed upon the square had been turned upside down. In some places the ground had been raised like small mounds, and in some many fissures had appeared. It looked really horrible. But only one place was fairly complete. It was precisely the area where the 4 Nirvana realm martial artists had laid down the barrier. However, the bricks on the ground had all been destroyed. Xiang stood there, gasping for breath. Xiao Ziliang stared dumbfoundedly. He felt giddy watching the whole scene. At this time, someone had started shouting curses, as people started to crawl out of a thick layer of dust. Some people released their strength and attacked from deep within the ground, to let others know and rescue them. Xiao Ziliang's complexion looked far from good. More than half of the square had been ravaged. His eyes were filled with killing intent when looking at Xiang. He could not wait to immediately rush over to Xiang and pound him to death. But he didn't dare to, not to mention even if he tried he wouldn't succeed, because Gu Dongchen was watching over him. Tang Yichao and the others were also extremely shocked. They were all quite confident regarding their barrier. After all, it was jointly laid down by 4 people. But the square was still ravaged like this. In their heart, they were all secretly excited, because Xiao Ziliang must compensate this debt. Hua Xiangyue and Lu Menjie, from the beginning to end, had been watching very clearly from the top of the tower. Although the square had been ravaged, Hua Xiangyue was flushed red from happiness. From the beginning, she had not hoped for any compensation, for the 4 Nirvana realm martial artists had jointly laid down the barrier. She only wanted Xiao Ziliang to give a guarantee, so as to avoid any accidents. And now, the accident did occur. Moreover, much to everyone's surprise, the entire square had been ravaged and it was all Xiang's work. 10 billion. Not to mention, the square would only cost 1 billion or so to reconstruct, that's all. Hua Xiangyue felt she made a fortune. Xiang was turning pleasing to the eyes the more she looked. She could not wait to swoop down to hug Xiang and give him a kiss. I won, quickly pay me. Xiang was also stunned for a while because the heavenly dragon seal cast by Long Xue had been too terrifying. In particular, after the furious white dragon materialized from the energy pierced through Xiaoqiu. It ignored the barrier on the ground and deeply entered the ground before the explosion of all the energy, which led to the destruction of the square. Gu Dongqin and Wu Kaming hastily landed behind Xianxia, because Xiao Ziliang had already been shivering from anger and was releasing a terrifying pressure. Hua Xianghua also quickly swooped over, stood next to Chen Xiang and dismissively said, "Xiao Ziliang, you must keep your word. My square is now destroyed like this." Xiao Ziliang now felt a mouthful of blood was stuck in his throat. He wanted to vomit, yet it won't come out. He very much wanted to attack. He would not hesitate to obliterate Chen Xiang. But now Gu Dongqin, Wu Kaming, and Hua Xianghua were all here. If he attacked, Gu Dongqin and the others too would retaliate. At that time, he not only would not be able to kill Chen Xiang, he may very well fall instead. Chen Xiang slightly smiled and very magnanimously said, "Senior Xiao, I'm sorry. Although it was me who had destroyed the squared, you must be held accountable for it. So be it. I only want you to pay me 100 million crystal stones." Hua Xianghua was going to get 10 billion crystal stones. He is definitely going to get his share. In the face of that, a short 100 million was nothing. At this time, Tang Yichao and the others one by one walked over and threw a storage pouch to Chen Xiang, then quickly took their leave. They were worried that Xiao Ziliang would borrow from them. The true martial sect, the beast martial sect, and the proud sword sect had given Chen Xiang a total of 500 million. That was equivalent to 100,000 true elemental dawn. Although they were extremely unhappy, they could not help but concede. Chen Xiang's strength was truly heaven-defying. Moreover, behind him was Gu Dongqin, who was extremely strong too. This time he had also helped the Danxiang Taoyuan's dean. Hua Xianghua earned 10 billion crystal stones. She would certainly regard him as a treasure and protect him. After considering that if they continued to struggle with Chen Xiang, even before the big storm had arrived, their sect would definitely be obliterated by the extreme martial sect, they decided to wait until the big storm had settled. They must quickly develop their sect well before the arrival of the upcoming big storm. After this trouble, Chen Xiang's reputation would once again be pushed to the pinnacle. Such a terrifying young man would certainly become the pillar of the extreme martial sect. Everyone believed that there was a great possibility of Chen Xiang becoming the next extreme martial sect's dean. Hua Xianghua gave Xiao Ziliang a breath of respite. She was worried that Xiao Ziliang, in his anger, would do something. By then she would never get to see her 10 billion. Xiao Ziliang continuously took deep breaths for a while. Only after that he felt a lot better. He had lived for a long time. For the first time he had been angered to death, and it was not an exaggeration. When the dean's position had been taken over by Huang Jintian, he had not suffered this much. And all this was caused by Chen Xiang. I currently don't have so much. I will pay you in installments in 50 years. Every year I will pay you 200 million. I never said I will give it all in one go. The free immortal sea established by Xiao Ziliang was still very young. He also knew the big storm was about to come. If he paid it in one go, his free immortal sea's coffer would be emptied. For these deans 50 years was simply nothing. Hua Xianghua also had a sense of propriety. She knew she could not force too quickly. Anyway, Xiao Ziliang's people were still here. He could not run away. Xiao Ziliang paid Chen Xiang 100 million. Originally it was 200 million, but Chen Xiang had exempted him 100 million. This decreased his hatred of Chen Xiang a little. Looking at Chen Xiang's face, Xiao Ziliang could not help but associate it to that madman, Huang Jintian. He could not help but feel terrified. He realized Chen Xiang definitely had some relation with Huang Jintian. Yet he didn't voice it out. Hatred begets hatred. Xiao Ziliang still had a sense of propriety. He was quite aware of the fact that Huang Jintian had been sealed in the extreme martial sect's forbidden land was just a disguise. If Huang Jianshan was angered, that would have very serious repercussions. Xiao Ziliang also paid 200 million worth of true elemental dawn to Hua Xianghua, then picked up the perplexed Xiaoqiu and left. He just wanted to quickly return and sleep like a log, forget what had happened today. In his eyes, Chen Xiang was a little madman. Although still in adolescent phase, he deeply dreaded his potential. Finally, I can relax. With this I have severed the past enmities of the sect. In the future, they should not trouble me again. Chun Xiang's laughter resounded for a while. Brat, you should be tired. Let's head back to the extreme martial sect. Gu Dongchen said. He cannot return yet. He still doesn't know how to use the 10,000 years old spirit milk. I've to carefully explain it to him. Hua Xiangyue said. If it's all right with you, I can bring him back to the extreme martial sect later. Gu Dongchen was secretly jealous of Chun Xiang. When he arrived, he came with Lu Menjie. During his return, he would be with Hua Xiangyue. He now realized not only Chun Xiang's potential was extremely good. His luck with the opposite sex was not bad at all. First and foremost, Lu Menjie and Hua Xiangyue were both noble girls who were in a prominent position. It was very rare for any man to be placed in their eyes. Then I'll have to trouble you, Gu Dongchen said, then pulled out some disciples buried under the rubble. Besides Zhu Rong, Yun Xiaodao, and the others, a row of people had all quickly jumped into the air. That was why they had not been buried. When Wu Keiming had pulled Zhu Rong out, Chun Xiang and the others started laughing. Finally, Yun Xiaodao and the others followed Gu Dongchen and Wu Keiming to the extreme martial sect. Hua Xiangyue told some Danxiang Taoyuan's disciples to look for the buried people. None who had arrived here were ordinary people. They could definitely remain alive for some time. Chun Xiang arrived at the 22nd floor of the Danxiang Tower. Lu Menjie, realizing he was safe, also took her leave. However, when he arrived at the floor, he could still smell the lingering fragrance of Lu Menjie. Danxiang's Dean, I helped you earn 10 billion crystal stones. How are you going to thank me? Chun Xiang said, giggling. After he knew Hua Xiangyue was the Danxiang Taoyuan's Dean, he wantonly molested her even more, because he thought it would give him a great sense of conquest in molesting a dean within such a prominent position. In particular, a character like Hua Xiangyue. Naturally, Hua Xiangyue was very grateful to Chun Xiang. She tenderly laughed and said, how about I repay with my body? While speaking, she began to undress. As her white robe fell off, only a layer of white muslin wrapped around her bountiful chest came into Chun Xiang's view, outlining her exquisite figure. Her slender waist and her clearly visible collarbone were soul-stirring to Chun Xiang. Chun Xiang could not help blush red. He hastily said, forget it. I've got a wife. Don't seduce me. Seeing Chun Xiang like this, Hua Xiangyue was a little disappointed. Pooh! Then why did you lay your hand on Menjie? She is your wife's teacher. You, little rascal, is really bad, gaining both master and apprentice. Hua Xiangyue teasingly smiled and said, then put her clothes back on. Chun Xiang also did not explain. He spread his hands and said, quickly teach me how to use the 10,000 years old spirit milk. I want to quickly return to the extreme martial sect. Humph! Do you find me annoying? Don't you want to get together with me? Hua Xiangyue tenderly snorted and said. She intentionally revealed a sad expression on her charming and moving face. This appearance appeared to be very delicate and touching, making others feel the urge to love her tenderly. How could I? But I have important things to do. If I find sister annoying, I wouldn't have helped you earn so much, Chun Xiang hastily said. Although he knew Hua Xiangyue was just pretending, he still felt that this woman clearly knew how to seduce others. Hua Xiangyue sniggered. No wonder Menjie had been snatched by you, little rascal. It seems you truly are skillful. This sister is beginning to like you. But unfortunately, I don't have a beautiful apprentice. In the face of this woman's bold seduction, Chun Xiang remained indifferent. But he was still extremely grateful to Hua Xiangyue. If not for her intentionally making him draw a tattered furnace, he would not have gone another level forward on the great Tao of alchemy. Sister Xiangyue, I deeply appreciate your kindness during the alchemy tournament. Otherwise, I would have not progressed so fast. Thank you. Chun Xiang spoke sincerely. Seeing Chun Xiang's face filled with smiling expression, Hua Xiangyue felt warm. She felt she had not liked Chun Xiang in vain. She giggled and said, dear brother, it's nice that you can understand sisters, my pain. However, you truly surprised me. You have unexpectedly learned refining simulation technique. Sister Xiangyue, your eyesight is truly good. You actually noticed that. Chun Xiang was also taken by surprise. At any rate, sister is still a top alchemist of the Qinwu mainland. Naturally, I've noticed it. However, maybe you, little rascal, will surpass me. Hua Xiangyue smiled and said. Next, Hua Xiangyue began to teach how to use the 10,000 years old spirit milk. What caught Xiang by surprise was that the 10,000 years old spirit milk was unexpectedly extremely similar to the golden dragon saliva. However, its ability to accelerate growth was a lot stronger. If you pour a drop on a tree, it could make the tree quickly grow by 1,000 years. However, his golden dragon saliva would at least require more than 100 drops to do the same. The 10,000 years old spirit milk is extremely rare. My Danxiang Taoyuan also doesn't have many. You better treasure it. Hua Xiangyue exhorted. I intend to help Sister Menger gather the herbs for refining the resurrection dan. By then I'll seek Sister's help in refining it. I want to give her a surprise. Don't tell her, Chun Xiang mysteriously said. Hua Xiangyue was slightly surprised for a moment. She didn't expect Chun Xiang to actually have such feelings. She found Chun Xiang's and Lu Menger's feelings ran extremely deep, which made her slightly envious. She had known Lu Menger for a long time. They would occasionally talk about a man and a woman feelings. However, she didn't expect Lu Menger to fall in love first, moreover, fall in love with her apprentice's man. Sister, is the Danxiang Taoyuan is established by you? Chun Xiang asked in low voice. But of course, I'm extremely formidable, right? Hua Xiangyue proudly smiled and said. You're really formidable. I really regret not receiving you as my maidservant, alas. Chun Xiang, while speaking, had a look of remorse. Hua Xiangyue giggled. At that time I knew you'd come to regret it. If you still wish to, I'm still willing to be your maidservant. Chun Xiang was taken aback. He asked, Really? Of course, it's true, I have already said it before. I definitely want to be your maidservant. Hua Xiangyue mischievously smiled and said, It looked like a joke. Yet not. Let's put it off for some time. If I have you as my maidservant, Sister Menger and Xianxia will be jealous. However, I'll consider it. Chun Xiang smiled and said. Upon hearing his answer, Hua Xiangyue gave him a grim look. You're quite shameful. Just a while ago you were regretting. Now you don't want to. Hua Xiangyue said with a pout, then grabbed Chun Xiang and flew out the window. In the blink of an eye, they had arrived in the outskirts of the fragrant city. Chun Xiang secretly grabbed Hua Xiangyue's beautiful hands. Hua Xiangyue was pulling Chun Xiang and leaped continuously. She moved so fast that Chun Xiang was gasping for breath. Hua Xiangyue didn't even consider his feelings. Like this she returned Chun Xiang to the extreme martial sect. When Chun Xiang had been thrown in front of Gu Dongqin and Wu Keiming, he was left unrecognizable. His hair was a mess, his clothes were tattered, and his complexion was a little pale. I've safely brought the brat. Hua Xiangyue dropped the sentence, then angrily left. Gu Dongqin and Wu Keiming was a little surprised. They didn't know why Hua Xiangyue was angry. They speculated that Chun Xiang must have angered Hua Xiangyue. Naturally, Chun Xiang was aware of why Hua Xiangyue was angry. However, he still could not understand for what reason she was furious about. Was it because he had not accepted her as his maidservant? Once Chun Xiang returned, he had been brought to a private room by Wu Keiming and Gu Dongqin. They appeared to be very cautious, even in the extreme martial mysterious realm. From looking at their appearance, it was clear that they wanted to talk about something very confidential. What is it? Speak quickly. Don't you know that an alchemist's time is very precious? Chun Xiang lazily said. He was a little tired, he wanted to take a good rest, and then plant some plants and flower and refine some dawn. Gu Dongqin replied, Young martial uncle. Xiao Ziliang was used to be that old madman's rival. But now he has established the free immortal sea. I'm worried that he is plotting something. That's why we want you to go and ask that old madman so that we can know a little more about Xiao Ziliang. I'm sure he'll be very interested in this matter. After hearing that he had to look for his mad master, Chun Xiang suddenly felt his whole body was wrapped in an inexplicable pain. Last time when he had come out, he swore that he would not ever return to that place. Why don't you go? Chun Xiang snorted. Although he had spent some little time with his master Huang Jintian, he was extremely clear regarding his master's temper. If he went to Huang Jintian, he must suffer some torture for a while. That old madman was quite proficient in torturing. He would not let you die or be seriously injured. Yet he would never let you forget. He would ingrain a lifelong fear into you. You are his apprentice, as such you are closer to him. Moreover, the big storm is about to arrive. You have to ask him his opinion. Gu Dongchen forcefully smiled and said, speaking of going to the old madman, he and Wu Kaming very much dreaded him. It was quite obvious. They too had suffered no little torture in his hands. Wu Kaming smiled wryly. To tell you the truth, whenever we are preparing to cross the Nirvana tribulation, we will go to the old madman. In regards to crossing the Nirvana tribulation, he is extremely knowledgeable. Gu Dongchen heaved a long sigh. In his eyes a sliver of fear appeared. After all, he had crossed so many tribulations, he must have gone to Huang Jintian many times. The outcome can be imagined. Little Bald, when you are going to cross the Nirvana tribulation, why not ask your dean why go to the old madman? Do you want to get tortured? Xianxia asked. Do you think I've some screw loose? If Dean can help me solve the problem, why would I do such stupid thing? Wu Kaming heaved a sigh and said, Lu Menger was going to cross the Nirvana tribulation. He initially intended to ask Gu Dongchen to share his experience with her, but now it seemed to be useless. Why can little Featherhead not solve your problem? Chun Xiang persistently asked. Because everyone's Nirvana tribulation is a lot different. I can only tell what to pay attention while crossing the Nirvana tribulation. But that old madman could most likely predict which Nirvana tribulation he is going to experience. This is also his big secret. Not to mention, he must be cursed by heaven. Because he is divulging its secrets, Gu Dongchen suppressed his voice and said. Chun Xiang in his heart was surprised. He didn't expect his mad master to actually be so formidable. This ability was truly heaven-defying. How does master predicts? Chun Xiang asked. This I don't have any idea. When my master was ascending to the heavenly realm, he quietly told us that if we want to smoothly cross the tribulation, it is better to find that old madman. He can make sure that we can at least have 80% chance to smoothly cross the tribulation. Gu Dongchen shook his head and said, 80% chance. This not only scared the hell out of Chun Xiang, but it was also similarly true for Su Meiyao, Bai Yuyu and Long Shui, all three of them. After all, when crossing the tribulation, many martial artists didn't even have 10% chance to cross the tribulation successfully. Young martial uncle, you still have to go see the old man. After all, he has the mysterious power to predict things. Gu Dongchen said. Chun Xiang nodded his head. No problem, but let me rest for a day. I'm worried that I cannot withstand the torture. With Chun Xiang's agreement, Gu Dongchen and Wu Kaming both felt extremely sentimental. At this time, they both gloatingly looked at Chun Xiang. The next day, Chun Xiang followed Gu Dongchen and Wu Kaming deeper into the extreme martial mysterious realm. In addition to the extreme martial sect's 3 tycoons, others could not arbitrarily enter this place. There were still a lot of secrets inside the extreme martial mysterious realm. So far Chun Xiang only knew of the forbidden land imprisoning Huang Jintian. There were many other places where he could not casually move around. Looking at the deep bottomless huge pit, Chun Xiang summoned up his courage and jumped inside. Ha ha ha, little rascal. Why have you come? You've truly surprised me. Oh? Have you reached the 5th level immortal and devil body? Well, you also have a fire spirit, little guy. You can indeed make others jealous. Huang Jintian looked just like before. His white hair was disheveled, his whole body was dirty. However, his sharp eyes instead projected a strange aura. The bottom was a little bright. Upon noticing his despicable master who had been kept here for so long, he secretly pitied him. Master, I can have such good luck is all due to your elder's blessing. Chun Xiang mischievously smiled and said. If he flattered him a little, he thought he would be tortured a little less. Huang Jintian smiled like a naughty child. Upon seeing his smile, Chun Xiang could not laugh but rather had an urge to cry. Come, let your teacher have a good look. While speaking, those skinny hands of Huang Jintian were like lightning, pressed upon Chun Xiang's shoulder. which was followed by waves of blood-curdling screams. Upon hearing Xianxia's screams, Gu Dongchun and Wu Kaming had their scalp tingling. They too had once shouted just like this, not to mention so many times. Chun Xiang felt as if he was being carefully cut by Huang Jintian, piece by piece. His body as if had been squeezed by that powerful true qi flowing inside Huang Jintian from every direction. Not bad. Not bad. You brat has grown faster than I have expected. Ha ha ha. With the burst of that nauseating Huang Jintian's maniac laughter, finally Chun Xiang's hell-like torture had come to an end. It had been nearly 2 hours. Quickly get up. Don't waste time. You must cultivate. Huang Jintian kicked Chun Xiang's waist. Chun Xiang powerlessly moaned. Master. Apprentice can't even move even if I want to. Let your apprentice rest a little. I've heard this sentence many times before. You've said it. Your senior brother had said it. Your senior brother's apprentices had also said the same. Hey. But at last I could finally prove. They all lied because they could move. Huang Jintian said, before he released his power, making the pleading Chun Xiang suspend in the air. Pain once again spread throughout Chun Xiang's whole body, which forced him to immediately howl. He shouted, I can move. I'll cultivate. After Chun Xiang came down, he simply didn't have the chance to ask any question. Occasionally he would almost get the opportunity to ask, but Huang Jintian acted as he had not heard anything. In a flash, 3 months went by. Just about right, brat, your foundation is almost solid. You've progressed too quickly. Although you have timely consolidated your cultivation, it was far from enough. In the future, you better make time to come here. Otherwise, you can forget to compete in the heavenly realm. Huang Jintian looked solemn. Now he didn't have that maniac look. Instead, he gave the impression of a strict master. Under the hands of Huang Jintian, Chun Xiang had to suffer torture for 3 months. But he still forcefully laughed and said, Thank you, master. Your apprentice will follow your teachings. Anyway, little guy, you're definitely not going to come to this old man. The question that you wanted to ask before, ask it again. Huang Jintian scoffingly said. Chun Xiang awkwardly smiled and asked, Master, do you remember Xiao Ziliang? He has now established some free immortal sea. Some time ago he had been maliciously swindled by me. Now I'm worried that he might take his revenge because I've made him lose a lot. So, I would like to get some information about him. Next, Chun Xiang described the incident of the Fragrant City Square in detail. After Huang Jintian finished listening, he immediately burst into his maniac laughter. You don't have to worry. Although Xiao Ziliang is a little narrow-minded, he isn't that bad. He is not stupid. He should have definitely noticed that you're my apprentice. Even if that bastard borrowed the galls of 10,000 dogs, he wouldn't have the courage to take any action against you. He would not even dare to make a move on the extreme martial sect. Bullshit-free immortal sea. He had established it almost to vent his anger. Although Huang Jintian was insane, his words were extremely trustworthy. This made Chun Xiang heave a sigh of relief. Xiao Ziliang is a very timid guy. I think after crossing his 7th nirvana tribulation, he dares to come and flaunt his prowess. But he had not expected Little Featherhead to have already crossed the 8th tribulation. Although Xiao Ziliang had lived a good-for-nothing life, if he could make it till now, then that is something to commend. From our era, not many are still alive. Most of us have vanished during their nirvana tribulation. Not even their ashes were left. Huang Jintian gave a long sigh. Chun Xiang now realized nirvana realm martial artists were not so omnipotent, at least they dreaded the nirvana tribulation. Xiao Ziliang is rather formidable in laying out arrays. If you need to, you can directly go to him. Looking at my face, he will certainly help you. Huang Jintian slightly smiled and caressed his greasy beard. Chun Xiang was secretly pleased to have such a strong master. He thought if his master were not a maniac and had some kindness, he would be perfect. Every time he would come down, it would not feel like descending into hell. Master, you can prophesize, right? I would like to ask you about someone who is going to be crossing the nirvana tribulation. Chun Xiang asked. Who is it? Her name is Lu Menger. She is the Empress of the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire, right? Before it was used to be called the Divine Weapon Sect. Xianxia quickly replied, waiting for Huang Jintian's reply. A look of anticipation hung upon his face. A sliver of strange light flashed past those deep eyes of Huang Jintian. That divine couple's daughter. Nice brat, are you hooked up with her? She is in Nirvana realm. Brat, your luck with the opposite sex have even surprised me, your master. Xianxia wryly smiled and replied, fairly ordinary master? Do you know her parents? I knew her father and mother. They were characters from my era, and even stronger than me. That couple was very strange. Everyone felt they were unlike the natives of the mortal world. In short, you hooking up with their daughter is a good thing. She is but my apprentice daughter-in-law. Hey hey! Huang Jintian patted Xianxia's shoulder, smiled and said, you're something. Xianxia already knew Lu Menger's parents were extraordinary, but he had not expected that Huang Jintian also did not know the exact details of them. Wait a bit. I'll calculate for you. While speaking, Huang Jintian extended his arm, before a Tai Chi Yin and Yang diagram emerged above his palm. His eyes also gradually turned into intertwining black and white like a rotating Tai Chi diagram, while the Yin and Yang Tai Chi diagram above his palm quickly started rotating. Watching the Tai Chi diagram upon Huang Jintian's palm, Xianxia was extremely astonished. In particular, after noticing a mess of texts appearing on the Tai Chi diagram, he even more felt unimaginable. 3 days and nights had gone just like this, yet Huang Jintian continued to remain in the same state. Xianxia waited patiently, although he didn't know how Huang Jintian was going to do it. He knew Huang Jintian must have some fortuitous encounter. Only then would he came into possession of such ability. Huang Jintian opened his eyes. The small and exquisite Tai Chi Yin and Yang diagram above his palm turned into a little Yin and Yang ball. He frowned and said, that little girl's nirvana tribulation is unexpectedly so frightening. Could it be she have some powerful thing inside her? Xianxia nodded his head and replied, Master, she has a purple-colored fire spirit, an unusual fire spirit. Not only does she have a fire spirit, but she should also have something with fire attribute. Her fire spirit should have fire and cold attribute. Huang Jintian said. Lu Menger had the fire spirit and the vermilion bird tender thread, both of which were powerful things. Now Xianxia couldn't help but admire his master. Much to his surprise, he had guessed both. Xianxia nodded his head. Just as he wanted to speak, Huang Jintian stopped him. Don't tell me what it is. You give this to her. Make her fuse it with her mind. The rest she had to see for herself. Huang Jintian handed the Yin and Yang ball to Xianxia. He sternly exhorted. Inside it are the details of the events she has to face during her tribulation. Aside from the heaven and the earth, only she and I can know. Once it is leaked out, it will not be accurate. Xianxia nodded his head continuously before he stored the Yin and Yang ball safely. Master, how did you do it? I want to learn. Xianxia was a little excited. The refining simulation technique was a little similar to predicting the future. However, it was used to predict the future events in the alchemical furnace, rather than predicting the future events of the world. Huang Jintian shook his head. You cannot learn this. Otherwise, you'll die. Although the possessor of Yin and Yang divine vein could learn this secret method, ordinary people don't have the life to offer as a price. This technique will shorten its user's life. But as your master, he cannot die. He is fearless. Xianxia was surprised for a moment. He suddenly felt his teacher was one mysterious guy. Unexpectedly, he could not die. Brat, do you still have some questions? Huang Jintian patted his head and slightly smiled. I do. I want to ask when the big storm is going to arrive. Also, what is your opinion regarding this? The big storm was the great battle of the three realms. He was also very concerned regarding this. When Xianxia started asking this, Huang Jintian's eyebrows were tightly knit. For a long time, he didn't speak anything. He looked solemn. Huang Jintian was dignified. He didn't have the appearance of a maniac, which clearly indicated that what he was going to say and do was imperative. Xianxia too didn't urge but waited patiently. Since you have obtained the black tortoise adamantal armor, then you should have the ability to go that place to get something similar, That thing will be useful to you. While speaking, God knows where, in Huang Jintian's hand appeared a piece of cloth, upon which he quickly painted, which soon took the form of a map. Huang Jintian quickly drew the map. After handing it over to Xianxia, he said, "You have to go the 100,000 Devil Mountain. When you have arrived there, take out this map. It should allow you to find the way to get the Suppressing Devil Divine exercise." Much to Xianxia's surprise, the Suppressing Devil Divine exercise was yet another divine exercise. Since coming down here, Su Meiyao, Bai Yuyu, and Long Shui turned silent. They seemed to be worried about being found out by Huang Jintian. Moreover, they all faintly felt Huang Jintian, the strange old, had sensed their existence. After cultivating the Suppressing Devil Divine exercise, it will let you have the Suppressing Devil Yuan Qi. This Suppressing Devil Yuan Qi can integrate with your true Qi. For dealing with demons and devils, for these two existences, it will be a lot more fatal. The Suppressing Devil Yuan Qi is not so easy to learn. However, I believe that you'll be able to learn, Huang Jintian explained. Xianxia doubtfully asked, "Master, do you know the Subduing Devil Divine exercise? That is the 100,000 Devil Mountain. Isn't it very dangerous? Brat, you even dare to come down here? Still afraid to go to the 100,000 Devil Mountain?" Huang Jintian scoffingly said, "The Subduing Devil Divine exercise is only useful for dealing with the natives of the demon and devil world. For dealing with the martial artists of the human world, it is completely useless. When the big storm arrives, the martial artists of the demon and devil world will come running. The Suppressing Devil Divine exercise will play a crucial role in fighting them." Chun Xiang stuck out his tongue. If the great battle of the three realms was not going to happen, naturally, no one was going to learn this useless martial exercise. The whereabouts of the Suppressing Devil Divine exercise is handed down by the extreme martial founding father. Even little Featherhead is not aware of it. You just have to go to the 100,000 Devil Mountain. Although it is a little dangerous, you will not have any problem in dealing it. The great battle of the three realms is nothing to joke about. It is very cruel. Not to mention, you, with your little abilities, even the Nirvana realm martial artists would fall in large numbers. Huang Jintian sighed and said. Chun Xiang heaved a bitter sigh because he was unexpectedly caught up in this storm. Not to mention, he still didn't know when it was going to arrive. If there is nothing else that you want to say, then quickly get the hell out. Don't waste my time, Huang Jintian said. Right? Keep in mind, don't say anything about the Suppressing Devil Divine exercise to Little Featherhead and the others. It will be useless for them to cultivate. They are not suitable to cultivate this martial exercise. Chun Xiang didn't have enough time to say goodbye. He had been kicked up once again by Huang Jintian. Little bald, I've returned alive. Chun Xiang, lying down on the ground, looking at the bright sunlight, laughed and said, Martial uncle, congratulations for your safe return. Wu Kaming too laughed and said, he was waiting here for 3 months. They couldn't help but admire Chun Xiang. Much to their surprise, Chun Xiang could stay down there for so long. In the past, he and Gu Dongchen at most could just stay there for 1 month. Chun Xiang told Gu Dongchen and Wu Kaming about Xiao Ziliang before he returned to the extreme Dan King courtyard to take care of his spirit herbs. He had left 3 months before to participate in the Danxiang Taoyuan Grand Meeting, and once again in the Forbidden Land, he had spent 3 months with Huang Jintian. In this half year, he often produced the Golden Dragon saliva. Now he had already saved up a lot. Chun Xiang intended to use it to nourish the resurrection grass and the 9 elemental flower. Moreover, he planned to use the 10 drops of the 10,000 years old spirit milk. He wanted to grow more resurrection grass and the 9 elemental flower quickly. Your teacher is very formidable. He should be from the undead family, which is a mystical family with infinite life. And also the family members also have the yin and yang veins, which is even more astonishing. Long Shui exclaimed again and again before she finally dared to speak. In the future, he can indeed become a legendary character, but hiding here is also ingenious. Su Meiyao said. Chun Xiang quickly asked, have you heard of the Suppressing Devil Divine exercise? It is the bottom-most skill among the 10 ancient, bizarre exercises. Neither it is hard to practice, nor it can be said to be overly useful. Besides being helpful in dealing with the natives of the demon and the devil world, it does not have any other uses. Bai Yu said. Xianxia in his herb garden planted the resurrection grass and the 9 elemental flower, before cautiously pouring the golden dragon saliva upon them. The resurrection grass can grow grass seeds, and the 9 elemental grass could grow flower seeds. However, both need to be 10,000 years old. As long as they can grow these seeds, you can use these seeds to plant a bunch of them. It takes 5,000 years for them to mature. Su Meiyao said. She also had an understanding of the dragon saliva exercise. In the past, they had done this kind of stuff a lot of times. They were quite experienced in this. 3 days passed. A significant amount of the golden dragon saliva was used to water the resurrection grass and the 9 elemental flower before they were able to breed seeds, after which each of them produced 10 seeds. The resurrection grass and the 9 elemental flower can now be planted here by using these seeds. The spirit grasses and flowers can grow infinitely, moreover, the more they grew, the better they will be. Your azure profound tree is an example. Su Meiyao said. Xianxia was secretly excited. He quickly planted the 5 resurrection grass and 5 9 elemental flower. Then Xianxia used a significant amount of golden dragon saliva for watering, and soon the whole golden dragon saliva had been consumed. He had produced the golden dragon saliva for half a year, yet it didn't take him half month to finish it. At this time, he had no choice but to use the 10,000-year spirit milk, because the 5 resurrection grass and 5 9 elemental flower were soon about to mature. So long as they mature, he could give it to Lu Menger. But he only had 5 white jade lotus seed, and he needed 1 for planting. However, he could replace it with the hell spirit grass. This way, he would have 5 set of the resurrection dance herbs. Once again 2 days had passed. Xianxia had already run out of the 10,000 years spirit milk. Although he had completely consumed the golden dragon saliva and the 10,000 years old spirit milk, he was instead feeling very excited, because Xianxia had successfully grown the resurrection grass and 5 9 elemental flower. Both of them were the essential herbs for the resurrection dan. If he had a little more time, he could even grow a lot of white jade lotus seed. Xianxia had been holed up inside his herb garden. No matter who came to him, he had not gone to greet them until he was finished with his business. He felt strange because Elder Dan had not appeared till now, as if Elder Dan had suddenly disappeared. Although she said she was going to seclude herself for a long time for training, Xianxia still felt a little uncomfortable. When Elder Dan was present, he would not feel so bored. He could harass that mysterious and powerful girl all day. The resurrection grass, the 9 elemental flower, the white jade lotus seed, these were the main herbs for refining the resurrection dan. Xianxia divided into 5 sets and placed them into 5 small jade boxes. In one box he used some hell spirit grass to replace the white jade lotus seed. He just walked out of the extreme Dan King courtyard and planned to make a trip to the divine weapon Heavenly Empire to see Lu Menger. He saw Wu Kaming hastily flying towards him. Wu Kaming, without speaking a word, grabbed Xianxia and flew towards the elder courtyard. It was as if there was something urgent. "Stinking brat, you've made us wait for good several days," Gu Dongqin, upon seeing Xianxia, said immediately. Inside the elder courtyard there were 10 people. He didn't recognize any of them, but he could sense that they were powerful true martial realm martial artists. Much to his surprise, they were all in 9th level true martial realm. "Dean, I'm going to the divine weapon Heavenly Empire to find someone. It is very crucial," Xianxia said. He wanted to hand over the herbs to Lu Menger quickly. Even more so, Huang Jintian's prediction of her nirvana tribulation was still in his hands. Gu Dongqin was confused. Xianxia was going to the divine weapon Heavenly Empire to find someone. He already knew Xianxia, and Lu Menger were very close, even to the point that they allied together to swindle him off of his crystal stones. However, Xianxia was Xia's wife. Xianxia might be visiting her, and there was nothing wrong with that. "Wait here. The divine weapon Heavenly Empire's Empress will arrive soon. You can just go with her. Now, I want to tell you something very crucial. After you've listened to it, you can go and pack your bags," Gu Dongqin said. Xianxia nodded his head. "I think all of you should know about the catastrophe?" Only the core disciples in selected sects are rather clear on this matter. The catastrophe is sure to come. However, you can't reveal it to others yet. Otherwise, the entire world will descend into chaos. Gu Dongchen said. At this moment, 10 other elders arrived. To be more accurate, the catastrophe is also known as the Great Battle of Three Realms from legend. You should not be unfamiliar with this, especially since this period has been recorded down very fiercely. Wu Kaming said. After the 10 ninth level true martial realm martial artists heard this revelation, a shiver ran down through their entire body. They had already associated the catastrophe with the Great Battle of the Three Realms, but it had yet to be confirmed. But now, according to Wu Kaming, it was all true. Unfortunately, there is a merged entrance in the Qinwu mainland, which is where the demons and devils would come. As such, our Qinwu mainland is under a lot of pressure. Gu Dongchen heaved a sigh and said, Chun Xiang learned from Long Shui that he was in the mortal martial world. Among the various mortal worlds, this world was rather large. The mortal martial world had boundless sea and many mainlands. The Qinwu mainland was a rather prosperous mainland. Not only the population was rather large, it has a sect with an incredibly long history, the extreme martial sect. But an emerging point for the demon and the devil world happened to be on the Qinwu mainland, which was the sole entrance to the entire mortal martial world. It is said that the merged entrance was also in our Qinwu mainland last time around. However, that is a matter from 100,000 years ago. To be specific, the entrance is said to be at the 100,000 Devil Mountain. Gu Dongchen once again stated, which made Chun Xiang's heart pound. After all, he was preparing to go the 100,000 Devil Mountain. Last time, when it merged, experts from various mainlands of the mortal martial world had gathered here. Together they had resisted the demons and the devils pouring in from the demon and the devil world. At that time, the battle was incredibly tragic. Many prominent experts of the mortal martial world had died, not to mention the loss of a lot of precious martial techniques, alchemy techniques, and so forth. And this history is going to be repeated. Listening to Gu Dongchen, everyone knew that this time around it would surely be very miserable. Even Nirvana realm martial artists would fall, not to mention them, these little disciples. You're going to make a trip to the 100,000 Devil Mountain. You are going there to note the situation. Now the situation of the 100,000 Devil Mountain is dangerous. The last time it was a brutal battlefield. The death of so many martial artists gave birth to the existence of souls, and now their power is gradually increasing. If the passage opened in advance, it will be absolutely impossible for the natives of the Qinwu mainland to resist the enemy. We Nirvana realm martial artists are going to contact the experts of various mainlands overseas and ask them to come here. Then we will hold a hero convention of the mortal martial world. Chun Xiang had always thought of 100,000 Devil Mountain as a sinister mountain. But much to his surprise, it was the legendary battlefield where the grand battle between the human world and the demon and the devil world took place 100,000 years ago. He now realized why Huang Jintian asked him to go there to take that thing. Chun Xiang was rather more concerned with the hero convention. At that time experts from other mainlands would arrive. After all, the mortal martial world was vast. There were many mainlands. Surely the visitors would be enormous in number, and also a lot of them would be powerful. You just have to observe the situation. There are already many strange situations that had arisen in the 100,000 Devil Mountain. So long as martial artists above the 9th level of true martial realm went there, wild shrieks and howls would burst forth. Even if we are concealing our cultivation, it is still no good. I once thought of forcefully entering it, but felt a very powerful resistance. Moreover, it also gave rise to earthquakes. Now various sects are sending 9th level true martial realm martial artists there to take note of the situation. That's why after you have arrived there, you have to be a little careful. If you encounter something you cannot resist, you have to retreat. Gu Dongchen's final words were particularly heavy. He didn't want to sacrifice his disciples. Elder Wu, first take these 10 to the 100,000 Devil Mountain to understand the situation. Let themselves adapt to the devil chi there. Chun Xiang had already been to the southern wasteland, so it is not necessary for him. Chun Xiang, you come with me. Gu Dongchen left with Chun Xiang and came to a secret residence. Xianxia was only in the 5th level of the true martial realm, but Gu Dongchen was sending him to the 100,000 Devil Mountain. There was definitely an underlying reason behind it. Young martial uncle, you have to go to the 100,000 Devil Mountain? Are you afraid? Gu Dongchen asked. He knew that as an alchemist, Xianxia must have had a lot of things to do. Gu Dongchen felt a little guilty about sending Xianxia to such a dangerous place. Naturally, I'm not afraid. Clearly tell me what you have to say. Xianxia indifferently replied. Even if Gu Dongchen had not asked him to go, he would have gone. He needed to go and acquire the suppressing devil divine exercise. Okay, the situation inside the 100,000 Devil Mountain is incredibly strange. I suspect that the residual power of souls are being gathered, and are used by someone in an altar to do something like the situation before, thereby in which they will create a fearsome barrier, rendering us Nirvana realm martial artists unable to enter. Gu Dongchen looked solemn. He said in a low voice, "If you can't find anything, set it on fire and incinerate everything there. I know young martial uncle's flame is extraordinary. It is full of extreme yang and unyielding. It should be extremely lethal towards devil chi." Xianxia nodded his head. He just had to set fire on the mountain, that's all. As far as the 100,000 Devil Mountain was concerned, he was not a little bit afraid. He was only rather concerned about how useful the suppressing devil divine exercise would turn out to be, and if it would also prove to be tough to learn or not. I'll go alone. Don't let the other senior brothers enter too far. To tell you the truth, when I went to the master, he told me to pay attention to the 100,000 Devil Mountain especially. He also requested me to head deeper and record the situation there. He said I could probably handle this. Xianxia, after some thinking, came up with a reason. This way he could act alone. Gu Dongchen was shocked. He knew Huang Jintian could foresee future events, which was why he readily believed this spun-up tale. Good. I'll go greet the other sects. Lu Menger is coming here very soon. She should be coming for the junior sister. Lu Menger soon arrived. Her face was covered with a black muslin and was completely garbed in black clothes. Dressed in black, she appeared to be relatively inconspicuous. She shouldn't have come for Elder Dan, but rather Xianxia. Gu Dongchen found it a little strange. After all, why would Lu Menger come for Xianxia? But he didn't ask anything and simply let Xianxia take Lu Menger to the extreme Dan King courtyard. This was the first time Xianxia had been alone with Lu Menger in the extreme martial sect. He could not help but have his thoughts wander. Only Xianxia and Lu Menger were present in the extreme Dan King courtyard. Even Wu Qianxian was not there at the moment. She was receiving training in the King martial courtyard. She was not like Xianxia, who had so many ways to elevate his strength. Sister Menger, you actually came to visit me. A mischievous smile was hung on Xianxia's face as he gave a cup of tea Lu Menger. Suddenly he kissed her face. Lu Menger felt extremely shy. Although it seemed like there was no one here, she still didn't entirely trust that. After all, it was still the extreme martial sect. Lu Menger gave a twist on Xianxia's waist. She angrily said, "Little rascal. Sister Menger, last time you left very quickly, and didn't give me the time to show my skill. It was really a pity." Xianxia disappointedly sighed. Certainly, Lu Menger had seen Xianxia's performance and she was taken aback. She now had a deeper understanding of Xianxia. She softly said, "According to Xianxia, brat, you really did stir up trouble this time, which ended up in you annoying Xiao Ziliang." Xianxia simply laughed and said, "I'm not afraid of him. Forget that. Tell me, what made you come to me? Is Gu Dongchen sending you to the 100,000 Devil Mountain? I came to stop him. It's very dangerous to go there now. Even though you're very powerful, you must not go. You must obediently cultivate." Lu Menger stood up, and with her beautiful hands caressed Xianxia's face. "Last time, the southern wasteland was very dangerous. Moreover, the devil path guys might be inside. I'm worried about you." Realizing that Lu Menger was so concerned about him, Xianxia felt touched. He smiled and said, "Sister Menger, you don't have to worry about me. Even if he had not sent me there, I would still go." Hey, forget about that. I have got a gift for you." Xianxia pinched Lu Menger's face, then mischievously smiled while taking out 5 jade boxes and placing them on the table. He said with a mysterious smile, "Sister Menger, I had worked hard for several months to get these things." Lu Menger reckoned there were herbs inside. Xianxia had stayed in the Forbidden Land for 3 months. During this period, she had visited extreme martial sect for Xianxia twice. However, Gu Dongchen told her that Xianxia had gone into closed-door training. Lu Menger opened the first jade box. The moment she opened her eyes, resurrection grass, the 9 elemental flower, and a white jade lotus seed came into her view. However, she wasn't surprised because Xianxia himself had a white jade lotus seed. He had already said that he was going to give it to her. She was moved. In the past, she had refused because she felt it was more important for Xianxia. The white jade lotus seed, if directly eaten, was still very useful. Noticing the affectionate look in Lu Menger's eyes, Xianxia scratched his head twice. An honorable empress was looking at him with such expression. His face was flushed red. He was extremely excited. Looking at his appearance, Lu Menger sweetly smiled and said, "Little rascal, you keep it for yourself. You're an alchemist. It is rather more useful for you." Xianxia, with a mysterious look, continued, "There are still more. Continue looking." Lu Menger was secretly curious. What other gifts has Xianxia prepared for her? She opened the other jade box. This time she was stupefied, because yet again it was the resurrection grass, the 9 elemental flower, and the white jade lotus seed. Those were the 3 most important herbs for refining the resurrection dan. Gathering a complete set was tough, not to mention 2 set. The resurrection dan was a high-grade earth-level dan, which in the Qinwu mainland was incredibly rare. Lu Menger could not understand how Xianxia got the herbs. She looked at the mischievously smiling Xianxia in shock. Much to her surprise, Xianxia once again indicated her to continue opening the other jade box. After Lu Menger had opened the 3rd jade box, she was completely stupefied, because she found yet another set of herbs for the resurrection dan. Her voluptuous bosom was heaving up and down. She was really touched. Xianxia's gifts were too expensive. At this time, she felt Xianxia's deep feelings for her. After she had calmed down, she continued opening the 4th box. This time she was already prepared, but inevitably she was still surprised with another set of herbs. She was sure that the final box would also have the same. After she opened the 5th box, she closed her eyes, took a long deep breath. Yet again, she was presented with 3 main herbs for refining the resurrection dan. However, the hell spirit grass had replaced the white jade lotus seed. Xianxia walked over, hugged the enthralling moist-eyed beauty, and gently said, "I don't want to lose you. You have to successfully cross the nirvana tribulation." Lu Menger also tightly embraced Xianxia, placed her face on Xianxia's chest, sighed and asked, "Little rascal, you knew. These are 5 resurrection dawn if Hua Xiangyue did her best. It should be enough. You don't have to worry too much about it later. Now you'll definitely be able to cross the nirvana tribulation." Xianxia encouraged her. The nirvana tribulation really had me horrified. You'll understand it later. I just didn't want to make you broken-hearted, so I was avoiding you," Lu Menger said in a low voice. Xianxia smiled and took out the yin and yang ball that was given by Huang Jintian to her, within which was something regarding what would occur during Lu Menger's nirvana tribulation. "What is it?" After Lu Menger had seen it, she asked with a frown. "Take it and integrate it with your mind. For this thing, I had suffered a lot of bitterness." Xianxia was speaking the truth. Lu Menger guessed it was an inheritance bead-like thing, with which one could learn some powerful martial technique. She immediately followed Xianxia's suggestion, took the yin and yang ball, and released her divine sense. In a moment, the yin and yang ball disappeared, as an entirely surprised look manifested upon her face. This is... Lu Menger was left speechless from shock, because now she evidently knew what she was going to face in her 7th nirvana tribulation. If she knew this, it would be a lot easier to face it. The nirvana tribulation was frightening in one regard, and that was, you didn't know what kind of tribulation it was. Even if you had the ability to face it, you would be tortured to death by the various suddenly coming tribulations. Don't speak. Xianxia quickly stopped her. You are not allowed to say. Only you can know. Lu Menjur immediately nodded her head. She suppressed her voice and asked, Little rascal, ultimately what is your relationship with Huang Jintian? I've been told by my parents that he can predict things about the Nirvana tribulation. Xianxia had been imprisoned inside the famed Forbidden Land of the extreme martial sect, and Huang Jintian was always inside the Forbidden Land. She had also noticed that Xianxia happened to have a yin and yang divine vein. By putting the two together, she had been sure that Xianxia had some relation with Huang Jintian. Xianxia just sighed. Lu Menjur also lightly sighed. Rest assured, I'll definitely protect you. Lu Menjur was now sure Xianxia and Huang Jintian were master and apprentice. She was very clear about Huang Jintian's matter from the past because her mother and father had once mentioned it to her. Sister Menjur, I've given you so many gifts. How are you going to thank me? Xianxia with one arm tightly hugged Lu Menjur, while a lascivious smile appeared on his face. Lu Menjur's beautiful face slightly turned red. She closed her eyes, gradually raised her head, and passionately started kissing Xianxia. Initially, Lu Menjur intended not to meet with Xianxia until she had crossed the Nirvana tribulation. But once she came to learn about the 100,000 Devil Mountains matter, she had been anxious that Xianxia would go to investigate. Lu Menjur simply could not sit still. She immediately came to find Xianxia. But much to her surprise, Xianxia was instead worried about losing her during the Nirvana tribulation. At this point, Lu Menjur was completely open. She affectionately kissed Xianxia. Lu Menjur herself didn't know how long she and Xianxia had been kissing. She suddenly felt an arm kneading her bosom, as if an electric current went through her tender body and she couldn't help but shake. She instinctively drew back. Little rascal, you are getting increasingly lewd. From whom have you learned this? Lu Menjur angrily said. Who taught him? Xianxia thought this was obvious. Why would he need someone else to teach him this? He thought a woman's bosom was originally for a man to touch. Otherwise, why would they grow so big? Moreover, also feel so good to touch. Lu Menjur seemed not too knowledgeable with regards to things between a man and a woman. Although she knew that some things would naturally happen, she had yet to prepare her heart. She was confused on how to face this. After all, she and Xianxia were currently having an affair. Moreover, she was also hoodwinking her own apprentice. Thinking of this, Lu Menjur's mood turned very complicated. She was worried that she would be hated by Xianxia. Noticing the blush on Lu Menjur's face suddenly disappear and replaced by a helpless look, Xianxia realized that Lu Menjur was thinking of something. Sister Menjur, I just wanted to touch your rabbits. I could not bear it anymore. I'm sorry, Xianxia said with a lascivious smile on his face. He didn't want Lu Menjur to keep on thinking about those complicated things. Although he too was in a complex relationship. This was very sinful. Lu Menjur pouted again and again. She lightly rammed her delicate fist on Xianxia's chest. Little rascal, you can never mention this again. Seeing this high and mighty queen turn into such a shy woman, Xianxia was filled with emotions. He grabbed Lu Menjur, held her and made her sat on his lap. Sister Menjur, how are Xianxian and Yulan? Xianxia turned a little honest. Otherwise, this beauty would be out of his embrace. Those brats are cultivating in the forbidden area of the Icewind Valley. They should be out before the start of the hero congregation. Lu Menjur leaned on Xianxia's chest and played with a white jade lotus seed. Where did you get these herbs? Especially the white jade lotus seed. It can only be found in the Lotus Island. In the past, Lian Yingxiao was chasing me, so I had been reluctant to buy it from him. Xianxia informed Lu Menjur about his fight with Lian Chongyun. He also gave her 3 fire dragon blood lotus. Lu Menjur was delighted. One was for her, and the other 2 for Xue Xianxian and Lang Yulan. Sister Menjur, you must be a little kind to those girls, Xianxia said. Both of them are my apprentices. They are like my family. Naturally, I'll be good to them. You should be a little careful in the 100,000 Devil Mountain. Lu Menjie realized Xianxia must have some other reason to visit the 100,000 Devil Mountain, and no matter what, she couldn't stop him. However, she was still worried. Xianxia caressed her face, smiled and said, "Give me a kiss. I may be gone for some time." Lu Menjie bowed her head and whispered, "You're not allowed to touch." After she had finished speaking, she raised her head, wrapped her arms around Xianxia's neck, and the two began kissing each other again. At night, Xianxia sent Lu Menjie out of the extreme Dan King courtyard. Just as Lu Menjie left, God knows where Gu Dongchen jumped out. "Young martial uncle, why did Lu Menjie came looking for you?" "She had come for you a couple of times already," Gu Dongchen curiously asked while staring at Xianxia. Xianxia had not expected that Lu Menjie would so boldly come for him. He was unable to think of some good reason. She came to discuss some things about my wife also. Also there is the matter of disappearance of the secular world. A sad look appeared on Xianxia's face. The disappearance of the secular world had indeed worried him because his father was still there. "Oh, you know about the secular world? Don't worry. It has only disappeared temporarily. However, you would not need so much time to discuss these, from noon till night." Gu Dongchen was deeply suspicious of Xianxia's and Lu Menjie's relation. Xianxia forcefully coughed. "Little featherhead, why are you bitching so much? Young martial uncle, you have to answer honestly. Last time, when you sold the building foundation Dan, wasn't Lu Menjie intentionally raising the price?" Thinking of this, Gu Dongchen was burning in anger. Xianxia knew that he could not hide this affair any longer. Because during the auctioning of the elemental spirit Dan, Lu Menjie was intentionally raising the price against Yu Jianglin. That was because I wanted to earn some crystal stones. Who asked you to act so destitute in front of me? Think of it more as your martial uncle punishing you. Xianxia emphasized on the martial uncle. Gu Dongchen snorted in a low voice. "I don't believe that you and Lu Menjie can be so close just because she is related to your wife. Such a proud woman to do that kind of thing. And she even came looking for you not only once but twice. Little featherhead, if you dare to speak any more nonsense, I will ask the old madman to straighten you up." Xianxia quickly interrupted Gu Dongchen. Gu Dongchen had not grown old just like that. If he still couldn't notice their relation even after all of this, then he had lived for nothing. Getting such a big reaction from Xianxia, Gu Dongchen ambiguously smiled. "Young martial uncle, you're so awesome." Lianing Xiao, that handsome guy, no matter what he did, he still failed to get his hands on her. Yet she had been obtained by you. How in the hell did you succeed? Xianxia realized that Gu Dongchen had noticed his and Lu Menjie's relationship. He calmed down and dismissively said, "This is your martial uncle's charm. I did not use any means. Now that I don't need to conceal anything from you, Hua Xiangyue, that little bitch is always pestering me. But as you know, I have a wife, so I've refused her. Didn't you see? Last time she brought me back, she happened to be angry." Seeing Xianxia's flamboyant appearance, Gu Dongchen could not help but grind his teeth in secret. In his heart, he thought, "She is wasted on this piece of garbage. Is there no God? Keep it a secret. If you speak of this to anyone, you'll live the rest of your life in the shadows of that old madman." Xianxia's words proved to be useful. A shiver of fear hit Gu Dongchen. Huang Jintian was his nightmare. He quickly nodded his head. Although Gu Dongchen found it absurd that an honorable empress would hook up with the little rascal, Xianxia, however, after thinking of himself and Wu Kaming acting all respectful to Xianxia, he didn't find it strange. But he still couldn't forget the fact that an extraordinary and prominent beauty had been taken by Xianxia, and this disturbed his mind. What was even more sinister was the fact that both master and apprentice had been taken by Xianxia. It's really unfair. Gu Dongchen was walking on the road, and he could not help but let out a light sigh. Xianxia knew that if he immediately went to the 100,000 Devil Mountain, it would be extremely dangerous. That was why he planned to enter the 6th level of the true martial realm before going. He now had 9 5 elements true elemental Dan, which, for him, was enough to enter a new stage. After going through the hell training of Huang Jintian, his foundation had already been solidified. He now realized that if he quickly wanted to progress using Dawn, he must often pay a visit to Huang Jintian to consolidate his cultivation. Otherwise, it would be detrimental to him. The great battle of the three realms spread to every world of the three domains: the human domain, the devil domain, and the demon domain. The natives of the demon and the devil world were rather aggressive in nature, large in numbers as well as stronger. They would certainly be rushing to the human worlds. The Qinwu mainland was a gateway for the demon and the devil world. All the Nirvana realm martial artists were under enormous pressure. The residents of the Qinwu mainland were leading their normal life. They were totally oblivious to the brutality of the imminent catastrophe. Even if they knew about it, they were under little or no pressure. To stop the disaster, the human world could only rely on the powerful martial artists. Xianxia felt that it was very difficult for him to step into the sixth level of the true martial realm now. He had swallowed 9 5 elements true elemental Dan. Although they could provide him a large amount of true qi, it was far from enough. After arduously compressing the endless amount of true qi, he was only successful in lighting up 40 true elemental grains. Xianxia needed to light up 50 true elemental grains every level. Only then would he be able to break through to the next level. Now he was still short by 10 grains. In the later stages, he would need a larger amount of true qi to compress. Without any choice, Xianxia had to eat all the building foundation dawn in his hands, and even a large amount of true elemental dawn. Otherwise, he would be unable to break through in such a short time. He was in possession of so many resources it was already astonishing. After all, the others relied on sect distribution for their resources. As for searching or earning on their own, it needed a lot of time, not to mention it was too risky. After 10 days, Xianxia had used a large number of dawn and finally broke through to the 6th level of the true martial realm. During the breakthrough, he felt the power coursing through his body. Not only was his true qi astonishingly vigorous than the past, even his body was a little stronger. However, he had consumed all of his building foundation dawn and the 5 elements true elemental dan, and an astounding number of true elemental dawn. These past 10 days he was eating dawn like taking his meals. He now came to realize why the formidable true martial realm martial artists in a sect were all very old. Because only someone like him, who could eat dawn crazily, can advance quickly. The sect even more so didn't have so many resources, which they still had to uniformly distribute among other disciples. After calculating for a while, Xianxia realized that he had surprisingly consumed 20,000 true elemental dawn in these 10 days, which were equivalent to 1 million crystal stones. Yet their potency was not as good as the 10 5 elements true elemental dawn. If he was not so anxious to enter the 6th level of the true martial realm, he would not have been so prodigal. After spending about half a day in his herb garden, Xianxia left the extreme Dan King courtyard. After notifying Gu Dongqin, he quietly left for the 100,000 Devil Mountains. Disciples of many other sects had already went to investigate, but much to no avail, they had no results. Even Gu Dongqin, like martial artists, had no way to go deep into the 100,000 Devil Mountains. They would be forcefully blocked. Evidently, there was a very powerful array or some barrier-like thing inside. The 100,000 Devil Mountains was spread on a vast piece of land. The Devil Province was also just around it. The natives of the Devil Province were all a bunch of Devil Path martial artists who very much yearned for the Devil Domain. They were the group of people who had received guidance from the natives of Devil Domain and cultivated the Devil Path. The Devil Province was next to the sea and connected to the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire and the Proud Sword Sect. After Xianxia left the Tianmen city, he entered a deserted forest and turned into a small bird using the 72 transformations before flying towards the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire. Even though he was a little slower after turning into a bird, it was relatively safer. Although the other sects had declared that they were not going to hold him responsible for the past deeds, and even the bounty has been removed, but he still had to be vigilant. And not to forget, those Devil Path martial artists hated him to be the very bone. He needed to be even more careful. After turning into a bird, he had nothing to be afraid of, even if he encountered some storm or anything. Because he could utilize the power of true martial realm 6th level to fly, which was completely different than an ordinary bird. "Little rascal, are you going look for Sister Menger in the divine weapon Heavenly Empire?" Long Shui tenderly laughed and said. Even though she appeared to a little girl, her brain was full of evil thoughts. "No, I will probably not be able to restrain myself and turn into a bird and peek at her bathing." Chun Xiang completely laid out his mind. Especially when turning into a bird and peeking at her, this idea had been lingering in his mind and wouldn't go away no matter what, because, to be honest, it would be extremely easy. "This dragon is going to be watching you. You better not use this sacred spiritual power to do perverted things." Long Shui tenderly snorted and said, "Little dragon, aren't you doing perverted things too?" Chun Xiang said in contempt. After 6 days of continuous flying, Chun Xiang finally flew over the divine weapon Heavenly Empire. It was a small town near the 100,000 Devil Mountains. The residents of this town found it strange that a bunch of people would come from time to time. However, they didn't know that there was something strange brewing inside the 100,000 Devil Mountains. The 100,000 Devil Mountains was the entrance to the human world which the demons and devils used 100,000 years ago. There were as many as 100,000 mountains here, which had been covered in the blood of many demons and devils. Even many devils and demons had been buried here, and hence its name was 100,000 Devil Mountains. Chun Xiang flew high in the sky. Far away, a large piece of land was shrouded in white mist, rendering it difficult for anyone to see. It can be said to be an ocean of mountains. All kinds of strangely shaped mountain could be found here. It looked very spectacular, especially looking at it from high in the sky. Many of the mountain were so high that they were piercing through the sky. Even clouds weren't able to stop their reaches. It's just the outer ring of the 100,000 Devil Mountains. That's why you can't see any devil chi fluctuations whatsoever. These mountains are spread in quite a big area. You will need to fly for at least half a day before you could cross the outer ring, Long Shui said. Chun Xiang flew low, searching for the trail indicated on the map that was given by Huang Jintian. Very soon he found a camel-like big mountain, which was the very marker indicated on the map. After finding the marker, he could finally follow the route in accordance with the map. Now it was just a matter of time before he could finally find the location of the suppressing devil divine exercise. If he was walking down the road open and above board, Chun Xiang would still have no problem in dealing with the strange creatures in the 100,000 Devil Mountains. He has a wide set of skills, and not to mention the Heavenly Sun Fire Spirit, which was extremely lethal to them. In case if he chose to walk deceitfully, he was even more formidable. Just take a look at it now. Who would have thought that such a small bird was a human? Especially because of this ability, he had little or no pressure at all. It was quite easy for him to fly into the 100,000 Devil Mountains. He was not here to fight but was responsible for noting the strange things happening here, and also look for the suppressing devil divine exercise in the process. In order to have the strength to survive the catastrophe, it was absolutely necessary for him to learn the suppressing devil divine exercise. After entering the 100,000 Devil Mountains, Chun Xiang flew very quickly. Very soon he found other sect disciples. From their conversation, Chun Xiang came to know they were from the true martial sect, and also realized that they have been blindly wandering here for 2 weeks. They had not investigated anything, yet they kept complaining and being assigned to do such trivial stuff. Most of the sent disciples were in true martial realm 9th level, which was the level in which they had to exert all their strength to find the opportunity to break through to the extreme state. Time for them was of the essence. Bunch of fools. They have intentionally been lured here. I reckon they will soon encounter an ambush. Chun Xiang, from their conversation, realized that these people had encountered an attack, and were being chased along the road. Moreover, they had also killed one from the opposite party. They were up against the disciples of the Devil Path sect, and currently they had been following the blood trial of an injured Devil sect disciples for a long time. As true to Chun Xiang's words, he soon found many men hidden among the trees in the vicinity of the true martial sect's disciples, just like what he had encountered in the southern wasteland. Since these guys so love to hide in the trees, I'll let them forever be buried inside it. Chun Xiang flew to a very dense tree, turned into his original appearance before taking out the demanding life devil bow. Xianxia did not intend to help the true martial sect's disciples because they were all 9th-level true martial realm martial artists. They were more than enough to deal with these devil sect disciples, however. It was under the case that they did not found out about the ambush. Xianxia had already been extremely proficient in using the demanding life devil bow. He shot at a big tree. An immediate explosion soon followed Xianxia's shot. A mist of blood soon dispersed in the forest. The devil sect disciple hiding inside the tree had already been smashed to pieces. In next to no time, the true martial sect disciples found out. They hastily took out their weapons and became vigilant. Xianxia shot 2 more arrows and killed 2 men hiding inside the trees, turned into a little bird and flew away. The true martial sect's disciples didn't know who acted secretly, but they realized the intention of other guy clearly, and that was to remind them that they were walking into an ambush and the attackers were hiding inside those thriving trees. After the ambushers realized that the true martial sect's disciples were vigilant, the devil sect disciples fled from the trees in quick succession. Just a moment ago they had witnessed 3 of their fellow men mysteriously blown into a mist of blood, rendering their numbers too low to even deal with the true martial sect's disciples. And if the hidden assailant once again made them lose few more of them, they would be finished completely. Once the devil sect disciples fled, they left a trail behind them. The true martial sect's disciples didn't give chase. They were worried that the enemy might intentionally wanted to separate them and attack the one who was slower than the rest. That's why they all gathered around. After Xianxia turned into a bird, he had a clear view of everything. After discovering that these devil disciples were fleeing, he immediately followed 2 of them. Inside these 100,000 devil mountains, many strange things were happening. Now that Xianxia had encountered these devil sect disciples, Xianxia reckoned that these devil path disciples must know something. According to Gu Dongqin, inside the 100,000 devil mountains, there was something blocking their advance. Only martial artists under the extreme state could enter easily. In other words, it is similarly true for the devil path sect. That was why he was not afraid of encountering some powerful devil path tycoon, not to mention he was now just a small bird. By looking at the speed and the way they were shuttling around the forest, it was quite clear that the 2 devil sect disciples were extremely familiar with the forest. As the devil province was nearby, it was obvious that the devil sect disciples would often visit here. The deep recess of the 100,000 devil mountains was very dangerous. Even those devil path sect's tycoons didn't dare to enter. It was quite similar to the southern wasteland. Who knows what demon or devil was sleeping inside? Those devil sect disciples who ran away, after making a big round of the forest, unexpectedly, they started to gather. There were a total of 15 men, and all of them wore a black robe and had a hood upon their heads. Their realms varied from 1st level to the 7th level of the true martial realm. Who the fuck attacked our people? That guy is certainly not a true martial sect's disciple. We have painstakingly spent so many days just to lure those guys, and just when we were about to be successful, some dumb fuck has destroyed our plan. A man cursed. That man must be an expert assassin. We could not find his trail at all. Even his attacks were quick yet very strong. We must return and report it to the captain ASAP. A man spoke before he started running. Others too started following him. Xianxia remembered that the direction they were walking was towards the depths of the 100,000 devil mountains. He hesitated for a moment before giving them a chase. Although he had the appearance of a bird, he still had to be careful. After all, these devil sect disciples were all powerful experts of true martial realm. If they discovered that a bird had been following them for so long, they would definitely be suspicious. Xianxia followed them for an hour or so. Their running speed was not so fast, as they were mainly paying attention to the surrounding. They were extremely cautious. Now they have already entered the foggy area. It was the very same mist which Xianxia had seen from the outside. When he entered the foggy area, he couldn't find anything strange. According to Gu Dongqin, this area is covered in a sheet of dense fog all year round. Aren't the invaders from the demon and the devil world not going to attack the devil path martial artists? Xianxia was finding it a little difficult to believe. At present, the devil path men were moving against the righteous, rather than to increase their strength. Of course not. It depends on the temperament of the demons and devils invading our world. If it was a bunch of idiots who only know how to kill, then no matter if it is the devil path or the righteous, they will kill whoever they see. But if it is a bunch of intelligent guys, then they will win over the diabolical forces of this world bit by bit, and completely control the invading world. They will enslave the natives to mine the various resources of the world. Su Meiyao said, the demons and the devils would not be invading the human world for no benefits. Chun Xiang came to realize why every time so many people would always die. Chun Xiang followed the devil sect disciples to a well-hidden cave. Once he arrived at the entrance of the cave, he sensed a few powerful aura inside. Much to his surprise, there were actually 5 9th-level true martial realm devil sect disciples. We have been here for almost a month, yet we could not even get a single righteous disciple's hair. Let's withdraw quickly. We have almost investigated the strange things happening here, a man said in a heavy voice. After Chun Xiang came to hear this, he was slightly taken aback. Much to his dismay, the devil sect disciples had already investigated the things about the 100,000 devil mountains. So to say, it had nothing to do with the devil path sections. What a pity! I'm afraid that the righteous guys could not even imagine that 3,000 years ago a powerful devil prince was already resurrected and was now awake, and he is the one who had arranged a powerful barrier to guard this place. And it is this barrier which is restricting the Nirvana realm martial artists to come in and ravage this place. Another guy lamented. Chun Xiang was startled. If this place remained fortified till the catastrophe, wouldn't the demons and the devils invade altogether, and finally ravage the Qinwu mainland to nothing, at one fell swoop? The breach in space were generally not that big. The invaders from the demon and the devil world can only come slowly. You can simply attack them from the outside. But if a bunch of them gathered together, then it would be too frightening. Bai Yuyu exclaimed. Now there is already a very small breach, from which some weak demons and devils are able to pass through. A devil sect disciples once again said. This information shocked the hell out of Chun Xiang. According to Chun Xiang's estimation, there was still a long time before the rift would appear. But contrary to his expectation, one was already there. After some discussion, the devil sect disciples decided not to ambush the righteous sect disciples. They all chose to withdraw because there was still the matter of a powerful devil prince, who was searching for some demons and devils who can be resurrected, in order to create a demon and devil army in advance. Although there is a rift, but an extremely powerful guy cannot come over. Otherwise, the spatial force will sense him, and he will be torn to shreds. The weak creatures naturally didn't have to fear anything. You must quickly find the suppressing devil divine exercise. Then by using the heavenly sun fire, ravage everything here. Those little creatures dread that kind of flames. Su Meiyao discovered it was more serious than they had imagined. No one had imagined the resurrection of a powerful devil prince. A devil prince from 100,000 years ago. Who knows how powerful he was? Chun Xiang could not even imagine. Even more so, a devil prince who could even be resurrected should not be some ordinary guy. He definitely must have some terrifying devil techniques. When he thought of this, Chun Xiang felt powerless. What made him depressed was that the suppressing devil divine exercise was hidden in the depths of the 100,000 devil mountains. If a lot of devil princes had been resurrected, then along with many little demons and devils, it was definitely going to be very difficult for him to get it. After passing through a canyon, the fog was even more denser. But Chun Xiang didn't sense any devil chi. Evidently, it was safe here. If it was some place with rich devil chi, then it would be place where a large number of demons and devils were buried. Those weak devils coming here need to rely on the very same devil chi to increase their strength. After Chun Xiang cautiously flew for 3 days, suddenly, a terrifying roar came from the front, as if hundreds of thousands of men were roaring simultaneously. This roar was filled with violence and was creepy as well as intimidating.